Howdy, folks. It's Lee. You're back with Follow the Leader, another episode where we are tackling theology, history, politics, environment, all things that matter to you, the voter, the listener. Today, we have Dylan Kunz from House District 20. He's running for representative in Montana, 17 years old. And we are just so excited to hear his vision, hear everything that's going on out of HD 20, and especially of the next generation looking at politics, looking at our laws, looking at our current world, and what are we going to do about it? So I am just absolutely honored to have you, Dylan. Thanks for coming on. How you
Yes,
doing?
thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I'm doing well. Yeah, just living life, in the campaign world and also just being out in the community and doing all the normal life things too. So, yeah.
Right, right. Because on top of running for office, you've got your thing, you've got your life.
Right. Yeah,
Talk
exactly.
about that. Yeah, what does that look like? What does balancing life and politics look like for you?
Yeah, so I think people sometimes, just also because of how politics and media is so skewed right now, and has been for a while, people forget that there is a humanity aspect to politics. Like at the end of the day, we are your neighbors, we are your community members. And we are just normal people, for the most part, I'd like to say, trying to benefit our communities and our neighbors, like I said. So yeah, it takes a balance between friends, between work, between going out in the community and volunteering, like I already do on a weekly basis, and then campaigning. It's a full-time job, is how people describe it. So
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your service. Talk just Dylan,
yeah,
share with the audience who you are. What's
yeah,
what's your
yeah.
what's your story?
So I'm Dylan Kunz. As she said, I'm 17 years old. Be this involved in politics. So I've heard, and also I see with my peers. I think right now we're seeing a huge rise in Gen Z population in politics. And I can attest to that because right now we are in a state of the country and in the world where things have never been as polarizing, as unaffordable, as unattainable as they ever have been, really, in a long, long time. Um, so I think a lot of us recognize, and me personally, that when I look at a government that doesn't represent me, how can I expect them to enact effective policy to affect my generation in a positive light? And further on that note, um, it's it's long overdue that the youth have their seat at the table. What's being legislated and decided upon right now is what our generation is going to have to live through and inherit. So I think that's why it's so important to be involved right now at 17 and younger and older, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is your world. This is the future. Talk to me about how you're able to run for office at 17 when you're still unable to vote. What does that look like?
Right. So it's a confusing aspect. It's something that does take a lot of explaining to people. And I think yeah, it's a confusing aspect, but what happens because in current state laws and statutes, um, it requires that you be a registered voter by the time of your inauguration. So with the midterms coming up, inauguration doesn't happen until January of 2027. I turn 18 come March. The only troubles I run into legally right now is campaign finance and funding, because along with that comes a bank account, EIN number, secure online donation. So that is the only trouble we are running into right now. Other than that, Montana laws are very clear, and just because it's uncommon doesn't mean it can't happen.
Right. Absolutely, folks. Did you hear that? You just have to be 18 by the time you're getting in there. So you can go
True.
right now,
True.
folks.
Yes.
Uh, and I think it's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to go through all these challenges, but clearly you've got quite a bit of support. What Talk about your region, your district growing up there. What are some of the challenges that you faced and your community has faced?
Right. So, I went to elementary school here, Lincoln Elementary School, not quite inside House District 20. Maybe it was a while ago before they did some redistricting, but there's a lot of issues right now that are affecting my community, and a lot of things that I've heard when I'm out speaking to people, out talking to voters, hearing their stories, is how unaffordable things are right now. How crazy unaffordable things, and that looks like getting a higher education. So going to college looks like transitioning from renting a property to owning a property. Um, that looks like so many things, rising grocery prices. We're starting to see prices drop in gas, but just everyday affordable things that um, people who are in the billionaire 1% class on the national level don't see and don't really feel. So affordability is the number one thing I'm hearing. And the second thing I'm hearing from the youth specifically, because I do target a certain youthful generation, obviously. Um, right now, Montana is exporting so many of our youth because we can't afford to grow up in the state that we love. That looks like, like I mentioned earlier, housing. We can afford to go to college here. Right now at the U of M, I believe I just saw a statistic. Um, it is as expensive to go to college in the University of Montana as it is as a college in New York. So it's crazy. It's crazy expensive. So many things are unaffordable. And also, we've lost touch. One of the main things on my campaign is restoring CTE skills to the classroom at the high school level to make Montana once again a competitive market for the trade industry, right? So we're seeing so many things that are driving our youth away, and that is a huge issue because if we want to protect the longevity and the future of our state, we need to focus on the people who are going to inherit it and are inheriting it very soon.
Oh, that's fantastic. And absolutely, affordability is, I mean, and it's wild too how quickly the Montana landscape changed because it wasn't a lot of, and yes, it was, but it wasn't a ton of middle class. It was a lot of wealth that moved into Montana in the last 10 years that was able to buy up chunks of land.
Well, I'll tell you, we
Um,
saw a huge influx from people from North Dakota, South Dakota, California especially. And what costs a two-bedroom condo in San Diego previously would get you 10 acres here in Montana. So people are telling their friends, hey, why am I living in a cramped two-bedroom condo when I can get 10 acres in a cabin here in Montana for the same or less than that price? And obviously that caused a huge jump in the housing market and a huge crisis with affordability. Um, it's insane.
Absolutely. Talk to me. So you mentioned Lincoln Elementary. Do you see or have you what are some of the problems you have talked to with the school systems?
Oh gosh. I actually just posted something about this. Obviously, I went through the Montana public education system, um, other than 2 years that I briefly lived in Wyoming. So my majority of my school life, I was going through the Montana public education system. And I've talked with teachers while in school, outside of school, just listening to educators' stories. And Montana ranks 51st in the nation for average teacher starting salary. It's somewhere around 37 or $35,000. $35,000 a year is what we're paying our educators, the people who are educating the future of our state, our future legislators, our future like it's baffling. And then we rank 49th in average teacher salary, not just starting pay. And that's somewhere in the $50,000 range. Our teacher pay gap is 77 cents, meaning that teachers are making 23% less than what their other college educated peers are. I think so. Nobody's taken this crisis seriously enough. Education is the foundation of anything, of our country, of our state, of our trades, jobs, etc. It is the foundation. And when we are not investing in our teachers and our educators in our schools, we are actively going against the future of our state.
Absolutely. And then you've got other things to untangle is when we're not educating the public that public is eventually, hopefully, the lawmaking class. I want folks coming out of Montana schools and, starting businesses or going to work. But if they run for office, I want to know that the schools that they were educated in were up to par, because this is real stuff. I don't want I don't want dumb people making decisions for my laws.
Unfortunately, we're already sort of there, but
Yeah, like, I'm like, whoa, none
right?
of you guys had to
No, no,
say.
and it's a very serious concern, and not enough people are taking it seriously. And
Right.
teachers, I've
Um,
let educators, administrators know in my district, in my town, that I stand with you. I want to hear directly what you see, what we can change, and let's do it together. Because we, our future and our education system is not something to play around.
no, it's not. And yes, thank you. The other thing that is kind of a big topic right now, these AI data centers.
Oh God,
And we'll share with me where you stand with this AI data centers. Because on the one hand, the future of technology is going towards AI. On the other hand, we know that there's some serious things we need to discuss about it. So tell me, where does Dylan Kunz stand with AI and AI data
well,
center?
Well, thank you for asking that question because that's another important issue that I've heard from people, not just in my district, but across the city, and something I've fought against. Like you said, I believe technology is a very powerful tool, and it can be used in a positive way. I mean, look at social media, right? 10 years ago, we didn't have all of our representatives on social media where we could post clips and see what they are saying in committee rooms or what bills they're testifying on or what they're saying on our behalf. So technology is a very skillful tool, but it has gotten too far. And these corporations seeking to put AI data centers in Montana have chosen the wrong people in the wrong state. Um, Montana is not an industrial town. It is not our industrial state. We don't want AI data centers. We can't physically support a data center. The amount of energy, the amount of water that they require is alarming. We fought here in Great Falls to push this data center out. I came in a little late in the train, but we fought to take these data centers out. People such as the Montana Golden Triangle Resource Council, Citizens for Clean Energy, these groups in Montana are saying no because they understand the dangers that they are bringing. Like I said, I think when we did the assessment, it would require twice the amount of energy than the city produces just to run one AI data center. One. And people also don't just understand the harms of AI. It's not just the data center itself and what it requires, but the harms of AI. So I think Montanans have been very clear in their answer, and that's hell no. We don't want it, and we're not going to accept it. On that note, too, and I'll just add quickly, I do want to point out that our governor is actively slapping Montanans in the face by supporting these AI data centers. He is actively choosing to ignore Montana and ignore our voices.
You brought up Gianforte. There is a growing concern with folks about the relationship specifically with Christianity and the American government. Um, there are some folks, and I'm saying this as a Christian. I'm very much a separation of church and state person. Um, have you noticed that in your district or in the in your field of elected officials, how much Christianity is influencing a lot of the lawmaking?
Yeah, well, listen, I could probably go on and on about separation of church and state, or lack thereof, we've had recently in politics. Um, and I'm speaking from a Christian too. I've grown up religious. I hold those values dear to my heart. However, it is very, very clear um, in the Constitution and our laws that we are not to choose one specific religion over the other. And recently, you're correct, we have seen a growing collaboration between Christianity and lawmaking. We saw last legislative session, Representative Lucas Schubert introduced the bill to declare Jesus Christ the King of Montana. It died in the committee hearing, thankfully. Um, and it's just these crazy, insurmountable things. And then oftentimes, because I would attend committees, I would hear bill readings, and I paged in the last legislative session as well. So I was there on the House floor. We hear a lot of what these legislators are saying. They're backing up their bills. There's insane discriminatory bills, whether it be on disability rights, trans rights, whatever it is. Um, they're backing their bills by citing biblical language and Bible verses, which is not an accurate or factual foundation to be proposing a law. It baffles my mind. Um, if you cannot back up a bill without you citing a religious book, there is no reason that you should be speaking or introducing a bill such as that. I think politics has recently, as my generation says, we've lost the plot. um, and what I mean when I say that is that a job, my job, if elected, and every other legislator's job, is to make life easier for Montanans, more affordable for Montanans. And instead, we see a huge push in their own agenda, even when there's outcry about it. Even when we have people who are saying, no, I don't want that. They say, well, I'm biblically mandated, or because of my religion, this. And that is not. That's not an excuse. You said specifically about Gianforte. We see a huge rise. And I think we see this too with, it's more common in Republican legislators. And this isn't to call out my Republican colleagues. I value their insight in what they have to say as well. But it's time to separate the two again. We look at our founding fathers were religious, and they were the ones who set up the safeguards saying that no religion is to be put over the other because they understood what it meant to be equal. Montanans are an equal state. We understand each other. We want enough on the table and to be left alone. We don't want to be told how to live, right? And that's happening through this Christian push. And once again, not to call out certain orgs, but I mean, you look at the Montana Family Foundation and how many legislators they've had on their podcast, and what their legislators speak of. These are not my words; these are factual, like things. You can go and watch these podcasts. They had Superintendent of Public Instruction, Susie Halden, on their podcast. People who are figures in our state and leading our state, backing up what they're doing with biblical scripture. Like I said, I'm a Christian. I'm not here to deny that. I'm not here to deny my belief in the Bible or relationship with God. But there also has to be an understanding that that is not the place for it.
Yes, we live in a secular society. And really, when you start looking at what quote unquote biblical law means, which denomination gets to say it? Because there's so many different ways you can interpret it that even like, that's another one of those like, okay, so if we do go down that direction, which denomination's interpretation? And then it's like, what
I
do
know,
you
and
like?
directly to that also, like you cannot like when they're legislating, lives are on the line. You cannot legislate on how you interpret a book. That's just, I mean, it's just not how it works. You can't take your own opinion, and I think that's, like I said, where we've lost the plot is that it now switches to them pushing their own personal agenda instead of listening to their constituents, instead of listening to what their people have to say. I went downtown in Great Falls, and I also went to some other small businesses in my district, and I just introduced myself. And I said, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. I want you to know that I stand with small businesses, and I want to know how we can support you and bolster you. And I had one lady who said, gosh, we haven't had someone do that since Lee Metcalf.
Really?
Yeah, and I took that and I was like, wow, that really goes to the testament of the fact that our legislators are out of touch. Not just our congressional delegates, but our state legislators are out of touch in what it means to be an elected official.
Well, and yeah, and just not having, just almost just like assuming, like there's an almost like, and again, not all legislators, but um you don't just get to run. I mean, there's plenty of people who become elected because they're the default, and
Right.
that's not the leadership we're looking for. So I'm excited to hear how hungry you are,
Yeah.
that you're getting out there, you're meeting people, you're listening to folks, and you're really just putting your foot down. You're like, because that's ultimately what this is it's a form of self-respect for you. Like, I'm not going to be treated this way, or I don't want this experience, so I'm going to do something about it. And um, I have a lot of gratitude and respect for you for putting yourself out there like that.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
Another thing I want to touch on are the public lands.
Mm.
Montanans love their public lands.
Yes, we
Um,
do.
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What are some of the threats to public lands? I know we just touched on AI, data centers. What else are you seeing?
Well, first off, I do want to say yes, Montanans value our public lands. We value our right to recreate on our waters and in our plains. As someone who grew up hunting on public land and had friends who had private land, it's who we are as Montanans. Um, there are quite a few things happening right now, um, attacking our public lands, and mm, my fight is local, but I can't speak about public lands without speaking about what's happening nationally to our public lands.
So, with our public lands, obviously, Montana is known for our public lands and for our national parks. What's going on nationally? How does that tie into Montana? Um, and what do we need to be aware of?
Right. So, like I said, like my fight is locally, but I can't speak about public lands without talking about what's happening nationally. And Montanans, absolutely, we do value our right to recreate on our public lands and waters. It's who we are as Montanans. Um, I don't know a single Montanan who hasn't gone on a hike before, or rode a four-wheeler, or fished in a river. Um, we are seeing we are seeing climate crises as well that are destroying our public lands. We're seeing increased. I mean, right now there's a ginormous, unprecedented flood going through Libby, Montana. Like as we speak, Libby, Montana is flooding. Things that really haven't happened before. Um, I would say, as for legislation, people are wanting. There are people out there who want to sell off our public lands. They want to build housing complexes. They want to build, like we said, AI data centers. They want to take away these lands, and that's not something that's not something I will stand for. That's not something Montanans will stand for. And I've made it very clear from the beginning that I will stand for public lands. And I don't even think that's a political issue, right? I mean, we see Democrats, Republicans, independents who have been elected here in Montana, and we all share the same ideal that our public lands are of value to us.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. It's like you said, should be nonpartisan, except for those who stand to, gain from it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and But absolutely, I mean, even like climate disasters, whether it's like the Libby flood, like you said, or we had the what was it down in Gardner,
yeah.
down in Yellowstone a few years ago. Yeah, they're serious, and
I know.
it's something we probably have to really start considering, just as the voters and taxpayers, about what climate disaster relief looks like for our farmers. Um, and I mean, so much of this, we're just so we love our lands, we recreate on our lands, we have so much farming. We just have a very strong relationship with the lands here in Montana, and it's very cool that that is so statewide.
Yeah,
I know the Texans love their lands too, but there's plenty of folks in Dallas that have never been to Big Bend, who don't care to go to Big Bend National Park, even
exactly.
though
Right. I think
yeah,
being part of Montanan is understanding our right to public lands. And with that also comes with honoring the native tribes who are on our lands as well, and who were here far before us. And I think the other thing that we have to understand, um, when it comes to public lands, is like Glacier National Park. So we have two national parks. Yellowstone and Glacier reside within our state. We just saw that our glaciers are melting at an unprecedented rate, but also refreezing as an unprecedented rate. I mean, we're witnessing it right now too with our weather. Yes, or earlier today it was 52 degrees, and I think it's dropped now to 8 degrees. Um, it can be seen as normal Montana weather, but we're supposed to now hit below freezing. Like, we're having these unprecedented fluctuations in weather that we have never seen before. And we really do have to call attention to the matter and see what's going on, because come with preserving our public lands comes with addressing the climate crisis and what that looks like, disaster relief, prevention, all these things that encompass this in order to preserve our farmland, our ranch land, our hunting land, right? All of these things.
And I like everything that you're saying, that perspective and that energy you're bringing. Um, have you have you seen or have you felt like you have inspired other young people in your journey? Like, how is meeting other people within your generation going?
Yeah, it's going really good. I think there is this both nationally, statewide, and district-wide. I've met leaders all across the nation, and we've connected on what we're doing in our communities, specifically here in Great Falls. I am a member of Citizens for Clean Energy, as I stated before, and the more I attend, the more I talk to my friends about it, the more that they're coming in and they're like, "What is this? What's happening?" So I think it's not a lack of care. Like I said, Gen Z is so hyper involved in politics than we've ever seen in any other generation. That's not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is lack of resources to get the knowledge out there, to say this is what's happening and this is why you should care. Um, we saw a while back, and now they're taking up a case again, but the plaintiffs that sued the state of Montana over the climate change crisis, they were young people. I had the opportunity to meet and speak with Ricky Held last week, who was the lead plaintiff in that case, Held versus Montana, and then got back from the Peace Corps. So there are leaders across our state. There are certain organizations that empower young leaders, but specifically when I'm talking to young people, I remain nonpartisan unless they ask me on specific issues. And that's because I believe that yes, they are voters. Yes, I'm going to want and need their vote. But at the end of the day, all I want is for them to have access to the knowledge and then to make their own informed decision. That's what I had to do when somebody provided that knowledge to me. So, like I said, it just comes down to providing actual knowledge. And it becomes a sticky situation because you're like, why isn't it being taught in schools? Well, schools also have a mandate to remain nonpartisan. And so I think teachers sometimes or educators are unsure on their boundaries, on what they can and cannot talk about. Because also we live in a world where everything is politicized and so polarized now. So it's just a sticky situation overall. So if young leaders can go and talk to people in our generation, say, hey, this is what's happening. This is why you should care. Or, hey, here's both sides to this issue. And it's important that you have a stance on it. Um, just providing the knowledge and information, I think.
Absolutely. And education is huge. Even if it's just like getting people together and saying, here's what I know and here's why I'm running because I feel about, because there's just the problem with the polarization is that we've lost the ability to converse on why people are voting for, like, because we're using same different languages, we're using different approach, they're different worldviews for why we're going to the ballot box for what we're doing. And um it's very quickly becoming, demonized. I don't understand your language, I don't understand your values, therefore you must be this horrible person. And um it's really made things, getting things done in community. So thank you.
Yeah. Wow. No, and just to follow up there, I think it's like I stated before, we've lost humanity in politics. Um, and a large part has to do, that's why I thank you so much as independent media. A lot of it has to do with these big corporate media, right? Because hate sells, violence sells, extremism sells. That's what people view and see. And oh my gosh, what's going on? They don't understand that there is a human side to politics. And just because I view a certain way doesn't mean you can't ask me why or how I came to that conclusion, or why I think this is the best fit solution. And also, and in turn, if you have a better solution and you are my constituent, I want to hear it. I want to hear what your solution is, because my job isn't to push my own agenda. It's to echo the needs and concerns of my constituents. Um, so yes, there are things I hardline stand on, and I'm more than happy to understand why, or explain why I came to that conclusion. But all it takes is a why. And that's not our generation's fault. That's not the other generation's fault why we're not asking why. I think a large part has to do with the media and what
Yeah.
they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's really it's that. Well, fantastic. I know you got the holidays coming up, but what does 2026 look like for you?
2026, we are heading in strong. So I'm finishing up December with just finalizing things on my campaign, such as campaign finance, as I mentioned. 2026, we are coming in strong. We're going to be rolling out my donation link. We're going to be rolling out my website. We're going to be rolling out some endorsements, some more town halls, coffee with the candidate. My campaign adopted a park in November. So we're going to do clean up the park and talk with the candidate events. We're going to be going to the senior living centers, right? So in talking with these voters, talking with these people inside my district, attending more events to get informed, pushing these things out there and saying, hey, this is what you should attend. Hey, here is a community educational meeting on what an AI data center does, right, to your community. So 2026, we are hitting the ground rolling. We are going to continue to knock doors. My goal is to knock every door in my district 5 times before the general election, and to talk to every single voter at least once. And by doing that, we're making it accessible, like I said. So going to the senior center, going to the high school in a nonpartisan environment, hosting things in the park. I'm a firm believer in meeting people where they're at and saying, hey, if I want to talk to you, if I want to hear your opinion, I'm not going to put the extra stress on your life to come and do that. Let me meet you where you're at. Let me go to where you normally go. So yeah, 2026, we are heading in strong.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and that is such the cool thing about being, a voter is um with social media, the good side, I guess, is we can hear directly from you as policies unfold over the next years. As things change within Montana and at the federal level, we'll get to know where you stand on it. And that's really that is the cool thing. So welcome to the race. I am so excited to see this energy, to see folks going for it. Um, Dylan, can you provide the listeners with where they can either donate to your campaign or share your social media? How can they help you?
Yeah, for sure. So unfortunately, because I am Gen Z, I'm on every single social media platform there is in the world. Right now, like I said, I don't have a donation link set up yet. As soon as I do, I will be posting that on my social media. But I'm on Instagram, I'm on X, I'm on TikTok, I am on Facebook. I'm on Threads. And if there's any other app that you are on that I am not, and you would like to see me on, let me know too. The tag for most of those is Dylan for Montana. So DYLANFOR Montana spelled out. And that is the tag. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, and from there, my other socials. So if you want to follow along in my race, if you want to see what's going on in Montana, you can find me there. I also have my email on my social media. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I am committed to remaining accessible as well as I can 24/7, 365. Email me, text me, call me, and I will get back to you guys. So
Absolutely. Well, folks, heard it here with Dylan Kunz, House District 20 in Montana. 17 years old. That is super awesome. Thank you so much for your courage, for your activism, and for your gift of vision of leadership. Thank you.
well, thank you,
All
Lee, for
right.
having me here.
Yeah, at any time. Love to have you back. Um, Folks, if you have any other questions for Dylan, as you said, you can find him on any of those channels. Dylan for Montana. This is another week of Follow the Leader with Lee. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Comment. What do you think? 17 years old running for office. Leave it in the comments. All right, folks, y'all take care, and I'll see you next week.